The press conference room in Shanghai's Grand Hyatt smelled of overbrewed coffee and nervous sweat. Fluorescent lights buzzed like trapped insects above the long table where Xiao Zhan sat alone, a single microphone angled toward his mouth like a loaded question. Behind him, the backdrop read, *Lost You Forever Season 2 Press Junket, but no one in the room cared about ancient immortals tonight. They cared about the man who had vanished from public life for 8 months and reappeared looking like he'd aged a decade in half a year, cheekbones sharper, eyes softer, the kind of beauty that hurt to witness. The reporter from Sina Entertainment didn't waste time on pleasantries. She stood, phone recorder glowing red, and asked the question the internet had been screaming for weeks. Xiao, there are persistent rumors that you and Wang Yibo have fallen out irreparably. Some say it's over scheduling conflicts, others say it's personal. Fans are heartbroken. Can you finally put the speculation to rest? The room stilled. Cameras clicked like a swarm of metallic hearts. Zhan's fingers, resting on the table, curled once, slow, deliberate, then relaxed. He didn't look at his manager pacing behind the velvet rope. He didn't look at the exit. He looked straight into the lens of the live stream, the one feeding millions of phones across the world, and spoke as if the question had been waiting inside his ribcage for years. "We're not enemies," he said, voice low, steady, but trembling at the edges like a leaf in wind. "We're just men who loved too loudly in a world that listened wrong." A collective inhale rippled through the room. Someone dropped a pen. It clattered like a gunshot. Zhan's eyes glistened, but he didn't blink. He let the silence settle, let it mean something. The reporter pressed, "Hungry? Loved? Past tense?" Zhan smiled, small, sad, devastating. Love doesn't come with tenses. Even when it's quiet. In the back row, Wang Yibo's team, 3 publicists in identical black suits, stood motionless. No denials. No frantic texting. Just a nod, so slight it might have been a trick of the light. But the cameras caught it. The internet saw. And that was the moment the story cracked open. Flashback. 3 months earlier, a private hospital in Zurich, snow muffling the world outside the window. Zhan lay in a bed that cost more per night than most people earned in a month, for lines snaking into his arm like translucent vines. The diagnosis had been brutal, dilated cardiomyopathy, stress exacerbated, the kind of thing that turned "take it easy" into a life sentence. His manager had flown in, sobbing into a Prada scarf. His mother had aged 10 years in a single afternoon. But the person who sat beside him, hoodie pulled low, mask covering half his face, was not family. Was not staff. Yibo had bribed a nurse, slipped past security, and spent 6 hours holding Zhan's hand while machines beeped a lullaby of almost death. They didn't speak much. Words felt obscene in the face of a heart that might stop. Instead, Yibo traced the veins on the back of Zhan's hand with his thumb, over and over, like he could map a way back to health with touch alone. At 3:17 a.m., the heart monitor hiccuped. Alarms screamed. Nurses flooded in. Yibo was dragged out, still reaching, fingers slipping from Zhan's like sand through a fist. He didn't sleep for 3 days. Back in the press room, the questions kept coming, but Zhan answered in fragments of poetry he hadn't known he carried. "People think silence is absence," he said, voice cracking on the last word. "But silence can be the loudest love. It's the space where you protect someone by not dragging them into the fire with you." A junior reporter, barely 20, stood up, voice shaking. "But the fans, we felt it. The way you looked at each other in The Untamed. The way Iboji's eyes followed you offstage at the 2019 Tencent Awards. Was it all acting?" Zhan laughed, a sound like breaking glass wrapped in velvet. "Acting? Surviving? Yes." He leaned closer to the mic. Every glance was a confession. Every missed cue was a prayer. We were 25 and 22, and the world told us love had to look a certain way to be safe. So we learned to speak in pauses. In song choices. In the way he'd leave a bottle of my favorite peach tea on my dressing room table without a note. The room was weeping now. Not metaphorically. Actual tears. A makeup artist in the corner dabbed at her eyes with a tissue that had long since disintegrated. Cut to 2 weeks before the press conference. A rented villa on the outskirts of Hangzhou, wisteria dripping from the eaves like purple rain. Yibo arrived first, helmet under his arm, hair wild from the motorcycle ride. He hadn't slept either, not since Zurich. His manager had begged him to stay away. One photo and your career implodes. But Yibo had stopped caring about careers the night Zhan's heart stuttered. Zhan was waiting on the Engawa, barefoot, wrapped in a blanket that smelled of cedar and hospital soap. The moon painted silver across his collarbones. When he saw Yibo, he didn't stand. He just opened the blanket like an invitation. They sat side by side, knees touching, staring at the koi pond where fish drifted like orange ghosts. "I thought I'd lost you," Yibo said. His voice was raw and used. "I keep replaying the alarm. The way your hand went slack." Zhan turned, cupped Yibo's face with both hands. "I'm here. I'm here." Then quieter, "But I can't be your secret anymore. And I can't be your scandal." Yibo's eyes filled. "Then what are we?" Zhan's answer was a kiss, slow, deliberate, the kind that tasted like goodbye and hello in the same breath. When they pulled apart, foreheads still touching, Zhan whispered, "We're the space between heartbeats. The part no one gets to name." Back in the press room, the final question came from a fan who'd somehow snuck in with a media badge. She was crying so hard her words blurred. "Will we ever see you together again? On screen? Off screen? Anywhere?" Zhan looked at Yibo's team again. The lead publicist, a woman who'd once threatened to sue a teenager for a fan edit, gave another nod. "This one unmistakable." Zhan smiled, the first real one all night. "We never left each other. You just couldn't see the thread." He stood, bowed deeply, and walked off stage without another word. The cameras followed him down the hallway, past the green room where Yibo waited in the shadows, hoodie still up, eyes red-rimmed but shining. They didn't embrace. Not yet. Too many lenses. But Yibo reached out, brushed 2 fingers against Zhan's wrist, pulse check *, and Zhan answered with a squeeze so gentle it was almost nothing. Almost. Later, on Weibo, a single post from Yibo's verified account, a black and white photo of 2 cups of peach tea on a wooden table, steam curling into the shape of a heart. Caption, *, some languages don't need words. They just need time. The comments disabled themselves under the weight of 47 million likes in an hour. Epilogue of sorts, 6 months later, the Chongqing International Film Festival. Red carpet. Flashbulbs like a meteor shower. Yibo arrives first, tuxedo sharp enough to cut glass, but his hands shake as he adjusts his cufflinks. Then Zhan steps out of the same car, white suit, hair longer, a thin scar visible at his collarbone from the surgery. The film festival ended at 2:14 a.m., but the night refused to close its eyes. Outside the Chongqing Theater, the air was thick with late spring humidity and the metallic tang of camera flashes still burning retinas. Yibo and Zhan slipped out a service exit, 2 shadows stitched together by the sleeve of Yibo's tuxedo jacket. No managers. No vans. Just a borrowed bicycle, matte black, no brand, left leaning against a dumpster by a sympathetic stagehand who'd once been a Bojan shipper in high school. They rode through empty streets, Zhan in front, Yibo's arms around his waist, chin hooked over his shoulder. The city blurred, neon signs bleeding pink into puddles, the distant rumble of the Jialing River, a stray cat watching them from a windowsill like it knew every secret they'd ever buried. Zhan pedaled slowly, as if speed might shatter the fragile newness of being seen together without apology. Yibo's heartbeat thudded against Zhan's spine, steady, strong, alive. Every thump was a reminder, *, I'm here. You're here. We made it, *. They stopped at the riverbank where the light didn't reach. Zhan killed the bike's headlamp. Darkness folded around them like a held breath. For a long moment they only listened, water lapping concrete, a night fairy horn lowing in the distance, their own breathing sinking without effort. "I keep waiting to wake up," Yibo said, voice rough from disuse. "Like the past 8 months were the dream and this, your pulse under my palm, is the alarm clock." Zhan turned in the circle of his arms. Moonlight caught the scar at his collarbone, turned it silver. "Touch it," he whispered. "Make sure it's real." Yibo did. Fingertips to the raised line where surgeons had opened him up and sewn his heart back into rhythm. The skin was warm, faintly ridged, alive. He traced it like reading Braille, translating "I survived" into "I choose you." When his hands stilled, Zhan covered it with his own. "I wrote you something," Zhan said. He pulled a folded square of rice paper from his pocket, thin, almost translucent, the kind used for calligraphy practice. "Couldn't say it on stage. Too many ears." Yibo unfolded it under the faint glow of a street lamp 50 meters away. Ink still wet in places, characters trembling like they'd been written in a moving car. Asterisk if love is a language. We spoke it in bruises. Purple blooms under makeup. The hush after a kiss cut short by a director's reset. Tonight the bruises fade. Speak plainly, my heart. I want mornings where your toothbrush crowds mine. I want fights over who left the window open in the rain. I want grocery lists and tax forms and your cold feet on my calves at 3 a.m. I want the ordinary loud enough to drown the world. Asterisk. Yibo's throat closed. He pressed the paper to his chest like it might seep through skin and rewrite the muscle memory of every lonely night. "Zhan, I'm not done." Zhan's voice cracked on the honorific, the one he hadn't used since 2019. He took a breath that shook the stars. "I want to be the reason you're late to dance practice because we couldn't stop kissing in the hallway. I want to be the one who burns your eggs and still gets kissed for trying. I want..." His words fractured. He laughed, wet and helpless. "I want to be boring with you. Spectacularly, infuriatingly boring." Yibo kissed him then. No cameras, no countdown, just the river and the dark and the taste of salt where tears had slipped between their lips. It wasn't cinematic. Zhan's nose bumped Yibo's glasses. Yibo's cufflink snagged Zhan's hair. Clumsy. Perfect. When they pulled apart, forehead still touching, Yibo whispered, "Move in with me." Zhan blinked. "You have a penthouse in Beijing. I have a cat in Shanghai who hates change. Then we'll get a bigger place. Neutral territory. The cat gets a vote." Yibo's grin was sudden, boyish, the one that used to make entire stadiums scream. "I already looked at a loft in Chengdu, big windows, rooftop garden, soundproof studio so I can play guitar at 2 a.m. and you can paint without my off-key singing ruining your muse." Zhan's answer was another kiss, softer, sealing. The first morning in the new loft was chaos wrapped in sunrise. Zhan's cat, Momo, a judgmental Persian with one blue eye and one gold, perched on the kitchen island hissing at Yibo's espresso machine like it had personally offended her lineage. Yibo, shirtless and flour-dusted, attempted pancakes and produced something closer to abstract art. Zhan leaned in the doorway, sketchbook under his arm, watching the domestic disaster unfold with the kind of wonder usually reserved for auroras. "You're burning them," Zhan observed, fond. "Artistic char," Yibo corrected. He flipped a pancake. It landed half on the pan, half on the stove. Momo yowled approval at the chaos. Zhan set the sketchbook down, crossed the room, and took the spatula. Their fingers brushed, electric even now. "Step aside, idol. Some of us cooked for our dorm mates in college." 10 minutes later they ate lopsided pancakes on the rooftop, legs dangling over the edge, city waking up 30 floors below. Yibo fed Momo a corner of plain pancake. She deigned to nibble, which Zhan declared a miracle. The sky shifted from peach to gold, and for the first time in years, neither of them checked their phone for headlines. But the world didn't stay quiet. 3 weeks later, a grainy video surfaced, taken from a drone, because of course someone had a drone. Yibo and Zhan on that same rooftop, slow dancing to nothing but city hum, barefoot, laughing when Zhan stepped on Yibo's toes. The clip ended with Yibo dipping Zhan low, kissing him upside down like a scene from a movie neither of them had been allowed to star in until now. Weibo crashed. Brands panicked. Some pulled campaigns, others doubled down with rainbow-tinted ads featuring faceless male models holding hands. A major streaming platform greenlit a documentary, The Silence Between Heartbeats. Director, a queer filmmaker who'd grown up on the untamed bootlegs. Yibo and Zhan agreed to consult, not star. Let the fans tell it, Zhan said. They were the ones translating our glances into subtitles all along. The mind-blowing scene came unscripted, on the set of the documentary's final interview. They sat side by side on a simple couch, no backdrop, just a window overlooking West Lake. The director asked them to read aloud the letters they'd written during the 8-month silence but never sent. Yibo went first. His envelope was creased from being carried in a motorcycle jacket for months.